All right, so in the first mini lecture for chapter 2, we talked about nouns and noun phrases. And now in part 2, in this mini lecture, we'll talk about prepositional phrases. So again, you can see how we're expanding from a single word item into its larger unit, from nouns to a noun phrase, from a preposition to a prepositional phrase. So before we get started with prepositional phrases, we need to look back quickly at adverbs. So we said adverbs modify verbs, that is their primary function. So in the sentence, he runs quickly, she prepares diligently, these adverbs quickly and diligently are telling us in what manner the actions were completed, right? So they are answering how these were done, quickly and diligently. They also modify adjectives, as in so hot, really windy. And so if you recall, words like very, really, so, to, still, those are all adverbs. We also said adverbs may modify other adverbs, as in it is still too early, it is just too loud. So this is going to be important today because we will look at prepositional phrases and need to determine if the prepositional phrase is functioning as an adverb. Also looking back at adjectives, we've said that adjectives modify nouns, right? So hot coffee, tasty dessert, windy day. These are all descriptive nouns. Remember that we can add very in front of all of these. Very hot coffee, very tasty dessert, a very windy day. So with prepositional phrases, as we briefly discussed in chapter 1, we will have a preposition that begins the prepositional phrase. That preposition is then followed by an article, and then we have the noun. So we have preposition plus a noun phrase makes the prepositional phrase. Of the mouth, again, we have the preposition of plus the noun phrase, the mouth, and that creates the prepositional phrase of the mouth. So more quickly with prepositional phrases, again, we have the preposition plus the noun phrase. This noun phrase that is a part of the prepositional phrase is always called the object of the preposition. So if we look at these sentences in the bottom, just find the prepositional phrases. We can see the writing center is located next to the library, near the garage. So we have two prepositional phrases, next to the library and then near the garage. Notice both of these follow the pattern of preposition plus object of the preposition. In the second one, we have on the courts, across from the registration desk. So again, preposition on, the courts is the object of the preposition, and then from the registration desk is a second prepositional phrase. Again, in the third one, you can put your gear in a locker. So again, preposition plus the object of the prepositional phrase. The task for us today, though, will be to determine first whether an item is a preposition or an infinitive. So a preposition, we have just said, is a preposition plus a noun phrase, whereas an infinitive is the to word plus a verb. So in this first example, the athlete decided to train. This is an infinitive because it is to plus a verb. In this next one, to study is also infinitive because it is to plus a verb. Here, though, this is different. To the bus stop, to plus the bus stop, that is a prepositional phrase because the bus stop is a noun phrase. And then in this final one, to Costa Rica, we have the preposition to plus the noun phrase Costa Rica. So this is a prepositional phrase. So identifying prepositional phrases from section. So if you look at 2.3, to identify prepositional phrases. So in this first example, the sound is an uncommon sound in other languages. So in other languages is a prepositional phrase. In the second one, we have two prepositional phrases, in many parts and of the country. In the third sentence, we have three prepositional phrases, in isolated areas, with accents, and from other accents. In the fourth one, we have the prepositional phrase in Appalachian English and with car. And then in the number 5, we have in Appalachian English, into words, and like wash. So the key task that we need to be able to perform is determining whether the prepositional phrase is performing as an adjective or whether the prepositional phrase is performing as an adverb. So just like single word adjectives, an adjectival prepositional phrase has one task, and that is to modify a noun or a pronoun. So when you are looking at the sentence, let's first identify, yes, this is a prepositional phrase. If the prepositional phrase follows a verb, then that is an adverbial prepositional phrase. However, if the prepositional phrase is following a noun and the prepositional phrase is helping us determine which noun we're speaking about, right? The preposition is saying which or which one, then that is an adjectival prepositional phrase. So let's look at these few examples and try to determine if these prepositional phrases are adjectival. So here we have speakers of English. So of English is a prepositional phrase. And it is telling us, well, which speakers are you talking about? We're talking about the speakers of English. So yes, of English does tell us about the noun speakers. Many students at TAMUCC. So we have the prepositional phrase at TAMUCC. Again, which students are we talking about? We're talking about the ones at TAMUCC. So yes, number 2 is adjectival. Number 3, most folks in Corpus Christi. Which folks are you talking about? Are you talking about folks in San Antonio, in Houston, in Austin? No, you're talking about those in Corpus Christi. So again, this is an adjectival. So this changes in number 4 though. We have she drove down the coast. So the prepositional phrase down the coast isn't telling us anything about a noun. It's not telling us who this person is. It's not helping us identify her. It is simply saying where. Where did she drive? So number 4 is adverbial. The same is true with 5. A long ocean drive is adverbial. It's not helping us identify a noun. So we need to remember that a pronoun replaces the full noun phrase. So a way that you can try to determine if a prepositional phrase is a noun is again to insert this pronoun. If the prepositional phrase gets kicked out, then it's adjectival. So we have the beers on tap at Buster's rotate weekly. So the question is the beers on tap. So on tap, is that connected to the beers? Is that an adjective? If you can say it on tap, then that must be adverbial because they are not connected. However, you cannot say that. Instead, you would say they rotate quickly. So because all of that goes out with the pronoun substitution, those are adjectival. The same with the next one. The schedule of the number 9 bus changes on weekends. So you cannot say it of the number 9 bus. You can say it changes. Because the pronoun substitution test takes out all of that, then it must be adjectival. So if you look at 2.4 from your text, we'll talk about one or two of these that will be in your homework. So in number 1, we have I studied click sounds in linguistics class. So the prepositional phrase is in linguistics class. But is that adjectival? Is that prepositional phrase telling us what kind of sounds? No, it's not telling us what kind of sound. It's telling us where we studied, where we learned this, right? So in linguistics class in number 1 is not an adjectival prepositional phrase. In number 2, we have my friend from South Texas. Well, which friend? The one from South Texas, not the one from North Texas, not the one from Louisiana. So here, from South Texas is connected to my friend. It is adjectival. In number 3, we have examples of a rural Missouri dialect. So what kind of examples? Examples of a math problem? Examples of a success story? No, examples of a rural Missouri dialect. So again, here the prepositional phrase is telling us what kind of examples we're talking about. And because it's answering what kind, then it must be adjectival. So prepositional phrases, though, are sometimes adverbs, as we've discussed. So as we've said, adverbs modify verbs and often answer how or where. So in those sentences we looked at earlier, she drove down the coast. He yelled in my ear. The prepositional phrase down the coast and in my ear are not answering what kind or which one. They instead are saying where this happened. So if we look at this sentence in the bottom, he described the error in detail. We have the error in detail. So yes, error is a noun, but is the prepositional phrase in detail actually telling us about error? No, it's not. Notice also that you can substitute a pronoun. He described it in detail. Because you can substitute the pronoun, he described it in detail, that shows that the noun error is not connected to the adjectival prepositional phrase, right? So that means in detail is an adverb. So let's look at a few of these. So in number 1, the ashes blew into her eyes. So as I said, the first thing you can look for is, does this prepositional phrase follow a verb? In number 1, yes, it follows the verb blew. Therefore, this has to be adverbial. In number 2, let's go to the movies. We have the prepositional phrase to the movies. This is telling us where we are going. It is not telling us anything about a noun, and again, it's following a verb, go. So in number 2, again, this is adverbial. In number 3, the people in this dormitory. Here in this dormitory is telling us which people. Which people are you talking about? I'm talking about the ones in this dormitory. So in this dormitory, this is an adjectival prepositional phrase. The ship is at sea. So at sea comes immediately after the verb is. Therefore, it has to be adverbial. I don't believe the price of that sweater. Well, which price? The price of the apples, the price of the bananas, the price of the pants? No, the price of that sweater. So here, of that sweater modifies price, tells us which price we are discussing. So that is all for that.